We'll start with the Irish Independent this morning, and tribesmen out of reach is the headline here. The potential of Galway's forwards is almost limitless. That's a quote from Eamon Sweeney's piece that they carry on the back page, and it's true, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I hate to make the comparison straight away between Gaelic football here, but it's hard not to compare it to the Dubs and the peak Dublin depth that they had over the last 2 or 3 years when the likes of Paul Flynn and Bernard Brogan were coming off the bench.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments yesterday where you just kind of looked and you went, well, there's All Ireland winners versus a team that are just trying to get to that point. You know, just small little moments in the game where you just, okay, we're not. I don't mean this in a. I'm sure Cody would completely disagree, but nearly. You nearly know as a player, like when they got back to within, I think it was 3, and then they could have nearly kind of got it back level. I think it was a point nearly where you're kind of saying Galway just increased it again, and that's what Dublin always had in the locker, where they could just get you, and then you're nearly there, and then they'd kick it into another gear. And that's what that's goal. Like, I mean, the power of them, the precision, the skill, obviously, but they can beat you any kind of way, you know. And whatever way you bring it to them, they're saying, "Okay, we're happy enough to do this."
Yeah.
So that is a scary thing for I think the rest of the championship.
Yeah, like they're one of the only forward lines that in the country where the Galway backs don't have to look; they can literally just launch it down there, and they're confident that the likes of Johnny Glynn, Conor Whelan, they'll battle for their own ball, and most of the time they're coming out on top, and that's a huge, not relief for their back line, but it doesn't have to be as precise going into their forward line. I mean, yesterday they brought on Jason Flynn and Conor Cooney. Conor Cooney was the outstanding forward in the country last year. I know Joe Canning was Hurler of the Year, but I mean, up until that point it was pretty neck and neck.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, they seem to just be coming again. They're just after winning a Leinster Under-21 title. And I don't know how they're building them out there. Like they don't seem to be anything under 6 foot going in there at the moment. Well,
that's the thing. I wonder, can he make it in the Galway team if you're under 6 foot?
No, you have to be very, very good.
Yeah, outstanding. It's the Johnny Glynn element yesterday as well is just another interesting facet of all of it. And I guess we're at a point where we've seen these teams play so much, and it's great. It's like you can actually get a deep dive into the team, how they're setting up, how they're outlined, how Micheál Donoghue's actually setting them up, which is kind of a new experience. It's like I've got a massive hurling brain all of a sudden, because we've seen these teams play a lot of times, which is great for the game.
But like you think of Galway, you say a number of years ago, even say 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they were always that kind of nearly team, you know, and they were always a team that people said, oh yeah, they've got great quality, great bit of skill, but they let you down type thing, you know, that when it really comes to the battle. Now they turned Kilkenny over a good few times over the last few years, but then when it came into say playing some of the Munster teams, but O'Donoghue deserves massive credit because he has put massive steel into them, but also resolve, and the fact of they have. It's not an arrogance. It's they're very, very confident in their own ability, and I think that comes from the thing is whatever you throw at them, they're well able to handle it. You know, so if you want to get really physical with them, they'll take you on all day on that, and that is a bad move considering the size of the fellas that they have, but also skill wise and everything else wise. And O'Donoghue, I think he is. I think he's tactically he's very astute as well, but he also seems to be a very, very good man manager. You know, like Galway is not an easy county with what goes on between the football and the hurling, and even the supporters. They're very, very divisive. You know, some follow one, others don't follow the other, and he has seemed to have kind of pulled all that together from a certain perspective. So it's. You know, I think it's something to fear for the other teams that are coming out.
Derek McGrath said it last night in the Sunday game, just about how ruthless Micheál Donoghue is, that you see the affable character on the outside, and that's what all the best managers have. They have that ruthless streak. When it comes down to it, they'll really put you to the sword. But I think a word on Kilkenny, like, I mean, Galway were playing hurling that was out of this world in the first half. I mean, but yeah, Kilkenny keep plugging away, and with 10 minutes to go, you look on the scoreboard and they're a point down, and you're going, what is going on here? It's been a feature for 20 years under Brian Cody. I mean, how they keep coming back, they keep plugging away, they just don't give in. And he'll have been really pleased, I presume, with how they came back into that game. Albeit Galway stepped on the gas, as we said, in the second half and put it out of sight. But I mean, is there any greater sight than them coming roaring back into a game that I know as a tip man it can be tough to watch some of them at the best of times, but you have to admire it too.
Yeah, like we talk about Galway's depth, but Colin Fenley and Richie Hogan coming off the bench. I mean, I would not be surprised to see that match yesterday being the All-Ireland final once again. As I say, we'll chat to Michael Verney of the Indo a little bit later on. We'll move on to the front page of the Irish Examiner sports section. Some good artwork here. It's super stuff. The headline, Irish Examiner writers and analysts preview football's Super 8s.
How long have they had that cartoon ready, do you think? They probably haven't had to change much.
Yeah,
maybe take out the Mayo jersey.
I see the Kildare one is the smallest one. There was just a quick scribble of Kildare in there.
Frozone in at the back, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You've also got Paddy Kelly saying Cork football, where does one even begin? And like we'll get to this a little bit later on, but where does one begin with Cork? Like when you think about 2015 and the way they should have beaten Kerry down in Kilkenny that day, like the 3-year downfall is as quick a downfall as I've ever seen.
I was in Portlaoise at the weekend, and Tyrone just suffocated the life out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the first half, they actually played reasonably well. The only thing that was really letting them down was there were some loose hand passes, and every single time that happened, you could hear the life being drained out of the fans and the team itself. They broke the line a couple of times, got in for scores, didn't take the scores, and Tyrone turned them over, and that's the biggest no-no against Tyrone. Don't give them the oxygen of having them turning you over in your forward line, going up the far end and kicking a point, because that's what they feed on. You know, that's their game. I know a lot of people have been talking about maybe it wasn't as nice to watch as the match before it, but you have to be impressed by how efficient Tyrone were with everything they did. There was no fuss. They played the way they know how to play, and they're going to be a match for anyone in that group in the Super 8s.
Like, in a way, the result that you had against Cork is probably the strangest result of the entire summer.
Yeah. And the thing is, they played, like, we can take a look at ourselves and say we played really poorly, but sometimes you actually have to give credit. I thought Cork played excellent the same day. I mean, I met Dr. Khan afterwards, and he reckoned it was the best performance they'd put in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And you thought, Jesus, maybe this is the start of something new. And then Kerry just bring him crashing back down to earth, unfortunately. But
Sorry, but for the life of me, I can't tie up those two performances, because albeit what you're saying about Tyrone, I just thought the match was so lacking in intensity. It was like a challenge game. There was no hit. I think the first decent hit was about 20 odd minutes into the game. Tyrone, I thought, were playing the game really in about third gear. I was at the Tyrone Meath game at Páirc Tailteann, and obviously it was a completely different. It was flat out. Everyone, there was fellas being literally peeled off the ground. Where I don't really think the Tyrone always knew they were never in trouble, and I just thought the Cork lack of fight was just something that was amazing to watch from such a proud county. But I spoke to Derek Kavanagh after it, and he was just saying, like, the issues going on within the county are just massive, but they've been coming for years. And I think I don't know, like, I mean, you're obviously there. I don't know if that was you guys were looking at the kind of the history of the Cork jersey and stuff, and you just got caught that day.
No, I think it was just more, sometimes it just doesn't come for you on a day, and you can try and find however many excuses you want, but sometimes you just have to hold out your hand up and go, no, today wasn't our day. And Cork found, like, Luke Connolly caught fire the same day against us, so it's disappointing when you've seen what's happened since. Now, thankfully, we put in some sort of a show for probably 50 minutes against Mayo, but again, that's only a moral victory at the end of the day. But yeah, I think they have a long winter ahead. And it'll be interesting to see what Cork you see next year in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be very, like, it seems that they're a team that if they take one bad body blow, the whole thing crumbles. Is that too harsh to say? Like, maybe they haven't gone through the experience of actually winning tight Munster finals yet, and it's only that, and it's only then that they will be able to survive an onslaught from Kerry in the early stages, or like Tyrone in the second quarter on Saturday.
Yeah, well, when you come through off the back of a big loss, so, like, what was it, 17 points against Kerry, the small things have to go your way at the start of a game, and there was probably 4 or 5 small moments in the first half that drained the momentum out of Cork, drained the life out of them, and after that it's so hard to change that. At half time you're 6-7 points down against a team that wants to counter attack against you. It's not a place that you want to be, and unfortunately when you're playing Tyrone, they just don't give you a sniff if they're in that position. I don't know how many times they've ever been beaten from someone coming from behind, so they had to come out fighting, I think, in that first half, and it just didn't fall for them, I don't think. I know I made a prediction that there might be a kick in him before the game, and that's looking pretty silly now, unfortunately.
We all make silly predictions. On the front page of the Irish Times Sports section, it's Galway clearly the dominant force as Cats are beaten twice, and Croatia have the power to beat England despite taxing run of games. Malachy Clerkin there, and David Heitner writing on the front page of the Irish Times Sports Monday. The back page of the Times Ireland edition then is Galway skin Cats. Knox saves the best for last. An unbelievable conclusion in Ballyliffin yesterday to the end of the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. Russell Knox, with a 40-yard putt twice to win the Irish Open. It was absolutely unbelievable stuff. I'm not sure were you watching it but it was one of those weeks where obviously RTE were carrying the Sky commentary, and at every turn the Sky commentators were just absolutely bemused by the beauty of County Donegal, and in the end they got a pretty beautiful conclusion to things. Like the 40-yard putt kind of felt like I don't know how to describe it, almost like bonus territory for Russell Knox near the end of that yesterday, and then suddenly the pressure was on when he had to do it again, and it was unbelievable stuff. So we might play a few videos from Ballyliffin a little bit later on in the show. The other story then at the back of the Times, which we might turn to now, is Healy claims second gold. This is Sarah Healy, obviously the Irish athlete who was part of an unbelievable performance in Gure at the weekend from the under-18 team. Of course, Sophie O'Sullivan, daughter of Sonia, was one of the other competitors at the weekend. We'll just cut now to a Sonia O'Sullivan video from the weekend. This is with thanks to the European Athletics Twitter account. She was speaking in Gure after Sophie won her medal.
She's very relaxed, and I see she's really enjoyed herself here. She's made a lot of friends, not just on the Irish team, but every night after the races she's gone out and she's done warm down laps with the other girls in the races, and she's just been really friendly and had a really great time. And I think that's what it's all about. You're competitive on the track, but off the track you make some great friends, and that's what kind of keeps you coming back every year, because you want to meet up with the people that you like to hang around with.
And at this age, if you see the girls running now already 2:04 in those times, at the age of 15, 16, do you know back in the time you ran, were those times already common?
Yeah, I think people can run that when they're that age, yeah. But I think as long as they're doing it naturally and not like forcing it. So I think, if you're in a race like this, but I think it's not really great for people to be chasing times and to be always out trying to run fast. I think it's at this age it's most important to be racing and practice racing, rather than getting fast times, and because the fast times will come. There's no real bonuses for running fast times at this age. You need to be able to do that when you're a little bit older.
Yeah, great stuff there from Sonia. Great attitude there, that it's talking about the under-18 level, where it's like participation is still highly important, despite the fact that you're absolutely unbelievable at what you do. It's still important to keep the head down and just enjoy what you're doing for the time being. Yeah, no, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic, and some brilliant results over the weekend. It bodes well for our future potential, because we all remember the times sitting there watching Olympics or Europeans and stuff like this, and you see fellas just coming and it's been a while since we've had a real kind of star. I suppose since Sonia, really, where we've had someone that we can really get behind. So no, it's fantastic. It really is. I can remember watching Sonia in 5th class down in the school hall, and I think I'd say half the country has the exact same memory. Look, it's brilliant. What a weekend. For Irish athletics. This is that's a brilliant juxtaposition of photos there. Sonia there and Sophie. Sonia actually presented Sophie with the medal at the weekend, which was a nice touch. So she won silver in the 800 metres and is a former under-17 Australian champion at that level as well. So, of course, it's fantastic to have her in the Irish uniform and performing well. The decision doesn't have to be made until senior level, I presume, regarding what nationality she will choose. It's going to be the next David Clifford situation. The Laker Oga then, Sport TG Cahir tweet there. Sarah Healy with 2 gold medals, 1500 and 3000 metre goals. Both runs were championship records, which is absolutely outrageous. And then Rashida Adeleke, who won the 200 metres at the age of 15, also with an unbelievable championship record-breaking performance. These aren't just novelty wins. These aren't just the luck of the Irish, the plucky Irish coming through when everything was in their favour. These are outrageous performances, and it is all about the kind of potential that's there. But like in and of itself, it's an unbelievable achievement.
Absolutely. You'd hope that kind of Sarah Healy's, achievements aren't kind of overshadowed a little bit, because, Sonia's daughter will obviously be the story, but that is phenomenal to have 2 goals. Like, I mean, unbelievable. She's an unbelievable athlete. I kind of need to delve into it a bit more, because I didn't know a whole pile about it. But, obviously, you just keep these kids injury free and progress and everything else. It bodes massively well. Obviously, massive where to go to college, probably over to the States or whatever it is like this. But it's great. It really is great, and it's as I say, it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, like the commentary on Eurosport yesterday, they were talking about an island nation who always manages to punch above its weight, but that this was just a different level of punching above its weight. And sometimes we do forget. Sometimes we get frustrated and we forget that what a talent somebody like Thomas Barr is, and that we're like unbelievably lucky to have him, and outrageously lucky to have had someone like Sonia in the past, obviously at such a high level. And obviously when it gets to an international level, once it gets to a senior level, it's going to be tougher. But when you're like setting championship records, it bodes very, very well.
Yeah, it's such a tough sport too. Like as an individual sport, it's a completely different thing that we're not used to in this country. I think we're a lot more team sport dominated. It's a much tougher thing to be fighting yourself nearly all the time. And for 3 athletes who are so young to have turned out and done that, it's incredible. And hopefully it means it bodes very well for the future, and hopefully they can carry it through into the senior level, and we might have some more memories to come then.
Absolutely, it's true. They'll be pushing each other on as well, despite the fact that it's obviously an individual setup. We'll move on to the Irish News and have a look at the back page this morning. They're leading with Armagh, who are left to reflect on what might have been. That's Brendan Crossan's piece at the front page of the sport section of the Irish News this morning. Armagh, there's no such thing as a moral victory in the qualifiers, particularly no such thing as a moral victory for Kieran McGeaney. But geez, their qualifier run again this year was very impressive.
Yeah, it's similar enough to Meath against Tyrone. Like their fans must have been coming away from Portlaoise without a qualm. There wasn't anything there that they didn't throw at Roscommon, and sometimes you just come up short. It was blood and thunder, championship, the heat, everything. It was an unbelievable game of football. The amount of kick passing that was in the first game in Portlaoise compared to the second was
like night and day.
Yeah, completely. And I think the penalty was a huge moment. Huge moment. If they could have got ahead, I know a couple of years ago they played Westmeath right before they played us last year. They played Westmeath in a qualifier, and with 10 minutes to go, they were put down to 14 early in the first half. With 10 minutes to go, they dropped everyone behind the ball and played a counter-attacking game. And I reckon they were set up to maybe try and do that for the last 10 minutes against Armagh or against Roscommon. And the problem for them was they just weren't ahead. And if they could have gotten ahead, they maybe could have implemented that, and they did it so successfully against Westmeath last year. And
Clare as well, the weekend before last. It was once they got in front, they weren't letting up. Let's just remind each other of the graphic, remind everyone of the graphic that we had up on screen last week. Here it is again, Kieran McGeaney in the qualifiers. It was an 86% win ratio, 25 from 29. That's now 25 from 30 after the weekend's defeat. Is there such thing as being a qualifier manager?
Well, I think what he is he's a very pragmatic manager, right? So he's a guy who realises, and he doesn't truck with this whole idea of, okay, I play a certain way. It's really interesting what Michael was saying, because there was a massive swing in that game. Vernon came forward, a bit of a sloppy hand pass, which went over one of the Armagh fellas. Roscommon counter-attacked, got the goal. And it was a massive swing in momentum. Even, I think it was around 8 points to 11 or something at that stage. And it went 1-8 to 11, something like that. And then there was, so there was some small little things. And I agree, McGeaney is the type of fella, and I heard someone mention this, that Armagh may be better suited to actually playing teams outside of Ulster, because they don't particularly like coming up against, say a Fermanagh type defence, who are majorly back in there, 13 or 14 players behind the ball, because they are quite a free-flowing team when they get going. And they have 5s and 7s who like to kick points as well as their inside fellas, and they've scorers all over the pitch. Like, it was amazing to see different fellas coming up yesterday with a point. So they're a team that can play it, and I think he's trying to hone in on this idea that, well, yes, I play my style to get ahead, and then if needs be, we'll close up shop. So he's pragmatic about that. He doesn't just say, no, we'll keep going, and if we're 4 ahead of you, we'll be 12 ahead of you. He says if we're 2 or 3 up, well, then that's fine. And that's why I think when it comes into the qualifiers, he does all of his homework, obviously, on the opposition, which every manager does, but he really suits the style and says, okay, this is how we can go with this. And I think he alters his style to a certain degree for the opposition. And I think they were unlucky, you know. I think they were very unlucky.
The first half, especially, as you were saying, like, they played so well in the first half, and to go in 2 points down was so tough on them, because, I mean, Mernon was unmarkable at full forward. Rory Grugan was kicking points from everywhere. And you just felt that they needed a boost of being 2 or 3 points up, and maybe then changing the style in the second half. But in fairness to Roscommon, they got the scores at crucial times. Enda Smith stood up with 2 unbelievable goals. But even before that, when they brought it back to a point, he picked up a ball probably 10 yards outside the 45, went past 2 or 3 players and drew a foul on the 21. And from that, Roscommon kicked 1-2. I saw afterwards, I was watching as all their fans, you know, flew onto the pitch, to the detriment of the Tyrone warm-up, actually. Not that you'd know it, but I saw, what struck me was Lee McHale came out, and he went over to Enda Smith, and Enda was kind of waiting for maybe a bit of a hug, and what he got was maybe 2 or 3 pushes in the chest. And what it looked like to me was him saying to Enda Smith, like, that's what you can do. That's what you can do. He said, that's what, when you stick your mind to it, that's what you can be, that player. And it really struck home to me that, you know, if they want to really have a mark on the Super 8s, he needs to be at his best.
Donegal and the height, I mean, that's a huge opportunity for them.
I think it's a Roscommon thing. I think if McHale could go around to every single player.
You can see on screen there McHale chatting to Enda. It looks borderline confrontational.
Well, I think I get the impression, because I watched him a good bit last year in the qualifiers. I did a good few games for News Talk, and I got that sense. McHale actually stands right up where the forwards are, and he just watches the forwards. He stays, and he's always cajoling them and talking to them and everything from the sideline. But you get that sense from Roscommon that they kind of need that dig in the chest a couple of times to really, because, you know, as a good Armagh, where if it wasn't for Smith, who McGeaney will look back on it and go, oh, a few lapses of conversation, or the communication and discussion around of who have we got, where's the players, because 3 or 4 times we were just caught ball watching Roscommon fellas. Smith for the goal, he just slipped in behind. We mentioned the Vernon one. So just, there was a couple of things where McGeaney will look back and go, you know, we actually could have slipped that, but at the same time McStay will be delighted, because there was a few moments in that game where they looked out on their feet, and the likes of Smith just dragged them back into it, and they kicked some unbelievable points. Like, I mean, unbelievable raking scores, great confidence, you know.
I don't think I've ever seen a performance like Mark Shields as well.
Yeah.
With the wing back from Armagh, started at wing half back, went in man marking job on Carl Craig, who was causing so many problems to the Armagh full back line. Started the second half as a wing forward, and then ended up in the full forward line and got a goal and won 4 frees. I mean, I've never, like, is there anybody else in the country can do that? Go from being a tight marking fullback to a free flow and full forward in the space of 20 minutes. Incredible. And Armagh, while they'll be disappointed, they've found a lot of players this year in the absence of what they had last year, and that can only be good for them going into next year's Division 2. That Division 2 is a minefield next year. And I think Roscommon could shock a few people in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so. the falling of your home fixture, and we'll get into this later on, is so pivotal to your hopes in this, and the fact that the two provincial winners go up against each other next weekend as well is another huge facet. We'll rattle through the rest of the papers. The last one for me is just the back page of the Racing Post. Sweden win is green light for Lions plunge. So punters have been baiting into England over the last couple of days. They've already been pretty short odds for the entire tournament. The punters have foreseen the fact that football may be coming home. Milesy, you've got the rest of the back pages.
Yeah, well, on that we've got Lovren saying that Croatia, we don't fear the English. So whether they do or whether they don't.
If I was Dejan Lovren after what Harry Kane has done to him throughout the whole Premier League season, I'd be a bit fearful now, to be honest.
Well, he's always going to say that. He's always going to come out with that one. But it's it is.
Mayor down in Wembley when they played him in the league.
Yeah.
He was whipped off after about 40 minutes. So I'd say rein in your tongue there, lad.
Yeah. And that's going to play in your mind. You know, like, I mean, as you're coming up against an individual player who you haven't gone well against, and it's like, so then you've got obviously the Irish Daily Mail, no mistakes. Galway hold off Cats to keep their Leinster title. We've covered that already. You've got the Sun, Michael D. Huggins. The president is so pleased for the tribe. There he is. I'd say Michael D might need a stool to get up to half of the Galway lads to give them a hug, because he isn't the biggest man in the world.
He's currently licking his lips with a Saudi takeover of Galway United, and both the hurlers and footballers going well. I'd say Michael D has never had more fun in his life.
Yeah, you've got the Star then. You've obviously the picture of the girls there, Golden Girls it says, and then you've got the Scalded Cats, which we covered as well. Kilkenny feeling the heat, which I don't know if they'd be feeling the heat, to be honest. I think Cody be quietly happy and looking forward to obviously getting rattled at Limerick, isn't it? Yeah. So the Irish Mirror Sport a bit there about opportunity knocks at Ballyliffin for the Scot, and you've got this will mean more than 1966. Wow. It will.
It probably would, to be fair. It's a far inferior team. Well, like the whole home World Cup, though. I mean, like, surely winning it at home means more than winning it in Russia. But then again, there is the whole element of doing it as underdogs.
Is Jesse Lingard going to be the next Bobby Charlton? That's the question you need to ask yourself.
The question sounds weird in itself.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. Like, sticking to the idea of like the 1966. The process of football coming home obviously just wasn't there. I mean, it has the whole parody element, this England World Cup journey. I don't think there was people in 1966 thinking this would be hilarious, wouldn't it, if England won the World Cup, whereas at the moment there is genuine comic value to the whole idea of football coming home.
Has the song gone back to #1 in the UK?
It has. I saw it on the Capital FM chart. I don't think that's the official chart in the UK.
I think I saw a tweet there a couple of days ago that reckoned that Paddy may be the worst singer ever to make it to #1 in the UK. Look, the parody element, they've welcomed it. They've welcomed all the chat that has come from it. They've been a lot more open about it. They opened up the whole squad to interviews at the start. The one thing about England, you have to get the media on side.
Yeah.
Because everything is a trial by media over there, and they seem to have done that. They're it's so hard to say it, but they're such a likeable team. Like, there's no, you never look at, as you're saying, you never look and go, who's the baddie?
No.
Now, if one of them makes a blunder against Croatia, I'm sure they'll be all over him. But yeah, like, it's going to be interesting viewing for the next week. Just on that point, we'll have a look at this.
Seriously though, it fucking so isn't. It fucking is not. It is not. You fucking know it, and I know.
It's not coming home, according to Noel Gallagher. He's not happy.
Liam tweeted following that, saying, kind of having a bit of a pop, saying he wouldn't even sing the song. You all know it is coming home. So I mean, they can't.
Why? What's the result? What's him so upset?
Like I don't know. It must be, maybe it's just a realism. Maybe it's like Belgium and France are by definition better than us. And
I thought it was a City thing, but there's plenty of City. Well, there's a sprinkle of them.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be the most happy man in the UK if Raheem Sterling ended his 1,005-day goal duck for England.
I don't even know Woody, to be honest.
Well, once Liam's rode in behind the England team, then suddenly no one has to go the opposite way. Let's just have a look at a couple of those UK back pages. The front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section goes like so. It is, this is the Ferrari's dirty tricks. They've got a special World Cup section there as well, which goes all 1966, as you'd imagine. And then the Guardian sports section leads with taking the plunge. England start to talk of going all the way. The UK Mirror then, we'll have a look at Southgate. This could be bigger than 66, as we said. Our World Cup winning heroes are rightly revered, but now with modern global social media, it will be crazier. Okay, bigger than 60. I can see the point there, that the frenzy would be more incredible. Like, let's also not forget the idea that football is a far more ingrained part of culture now than it was in 1966. It's in a completely different place.
But you do know what that means. That means it's just going to be in everyone else's face so much more with social media and everything else. It's like, no matter where you were in 66, there was probably a part of the world where you were like, England? Who? World Cup? No. But now, not a chance.
I think that kind of shows what we're talking about with the media, though, isn't it? Like, when you read the subheading, you actually realise what he's talking about, but all you see blatantly in front of you is this could be bigger than 66 Southgate. So
it's very, you can easily take a very one-dimensional look at it, and maybe there's more to the tabloids in the UK than meets the eye sometimes. Let's finally have a look at Marca, because they've got an interesting story here that Luis Enrique is set to be the next Spain boss. So Rubiala's press conference is due at 11:30 this morning, followed by a board meeting, then another press conference. So that'll be an interesting element to today's agenda.